on lawyers. That's the last thing they want to do. But you know, it's always an ounce of prevention. The old saying.
How long have you
it's
been
worth it. And the other thing I'll say is that when they haven't planned as they should, and they do get into difficulties, the other thing I constantly preach is that if it's a viable business, ultimately it's going to result in a buyout. Someone is going to buy out the other, and there are two ways to do it. You can either litigate and spend a lot of money on the lawyers litigating and then do your buyout agreement, or you can do your buyout agreement up front and spare yourself the litigation. And more often,
sure sounds like there's no choice there.
more often than not, the buyout that could have been done on day one is going to look pretty much like the buyout you do at the end of the process.
Really?
More often than not.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you mean to tell me the two lawyers come up with a deal up front that looks reasonable, and in the end, after litigation, it's pretty much...
Unfortunately, yes, that's often what happens. And that's, again, it comes back to business divorce and the acrimony. Sometimes you're talking about people who have been business partners for years and years. They've probably spent more time with their business partner than they have with their spouses and children. And when things go bad, you can have this great sense of anger and even betrayal. And those emotions cloud their business judgment. And there's this desire to get the other person. And unfortunately, that goes on. It can result in missed opportunities to settle things amicably. You end up in court, and then after some period of going around the block several times in court and spending a lot of money on attorneys, people tend to sober up and realize that ultimately this is a business decision that needs to be made, and we need a business solution.
I can also see needing a business divorce attorney when the divorce isn't even based on acrimony. In other words, two people, one person dies and another person comes in and takes over, and they can't work together, and it's not a long-standing feud. It's just a momentary thing of, you know what, we can't work together. But even then, you'll still need a business divorce attorney, right?
Well, yes, you'll need it. You could need an attorney. I mean, the example you just gave is quite typical, and it's not that the surviving spouse of the deceased business owner is going to step into the business and start taking orders and selling and managing. It's just that now they have this interest in the company, a company perhaps that typically never made distributions. All of the profit from the company was taken out in the form of salaries for working people. So now you have a very different interest involved. You have an outside shareholder who's not working in the company, is drawing no salary, whose only interest now is in either getting distributions or selling. And that interest is very much opposed now to the interest of the remaining partner who's still in the business and still working the business.
In other words, when there were two partners who both worked, they both drew a salary, so they had the same interest in the company, which is don't pay out dividends, keep the business going.
Yes.
But now when one of the owners, the surviving spouse, isn't working, they're not making any money. So what do they want to keep? Why do they not want dividends?
And this is what you see in companies, businesses that go on for decades, where perhaps first generation you had two or three business partners who founded the company, worked very closely and worked very well together. They socialized together. Their spouses knew one another. But now they're out of the business. They died or they retired. Perhaps they brought in some of their children.
I want to really quickly just Peter has a blog. What's the blog?
nybusinessdivorce.com.
Yeah, good. Because all your cases are discussed in there, correct?
Many, many cases.
Yeah.
And it's a great educational tool.
We ran out of time, and I don't think I got to any of your questions. I think
I'll have to come back again.
You'll have to come back again, because I don't think I got to anything. Isn't that awful?
Yeah.